Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, a safe place to get real about sex. Whether you're a man, woman, single, or couple, this is the show for you.
We are your hosts, Kevin Anthony and Céline Remy, and we are here to guide you to go from good to amazing in the bedroom and beyond.
All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 216, and it is titled The Beginner's Guide to Butt Play. All right, so we have done 2 episodes in the past on the prostate, but that was really geared specifically more towards men and the prostate.
Episode number 7 and episode 137, if you're interested.
Yes, episode number 7, I believe, is still our all-time most downloaded and listened to episode.
And it was really early on in our podcasting.
Yep, indeed. And, you know, we've told this story on the show before. It was a topic that I didn't really want to cover the day that we covered it, and I felt like it was probably the worst podcast I ever did. But we went back and way later, a couple of years later, and listened to it again. And actually, it's not bad at all. It's quite good. We did, however, decide to do a second show on that because there were some things that we felt we could have added. And so we did a second show, also very highly downloaded and listened to. This is going to be a little bit different, this show, because it's not going to focus around men. It's going to be
just around butts.
Around butts.
Anal stuff.
Yeah, anal stuff for both men and women. It's a subject that came up recently, and somebody was having a big aversion to it. So we decided, you know, we need to do a show on that, and we need to cover some of the biggest objections that people have and really have a candid conversation about what's the reality like here. Because a lot of people have ideas in their mind about what they think it's going to be, both good and bad, right? So like you'll have guys that have this fantasy about how awesome it's going to be to, you know, fuck her in the ass kind of thing, right? And then when they do it, they're like, it's not quite.
Yeah, and there's the whole thing too about when you talk about butt play, the first thing a lot of men think is, not in my ass.
Right, that's another one, is all the guys are like, that makes you gay, no way, man, right? And then there's all the women that are like, no, it's gonna hurt, it's not clean, it's this, it's that, right? So there's a whole lot of misconceptions regarding anal play, and we are going to bust the myths today and clear up the misconceptions and tell you honestly what it's really like, and if you are interested, how to do it right.
And so it's a great episode to listen to with your partner. It will help you talk about it and hopefully
every episode of this show is great to listen to with your partner.
That's true.
That should be part of your date night. Sit down and listen to the Love Lab podcast.
Weekly fun. All right. Before we get started, let's give a big shout out to our sponsors, Power and Mastery. If you want to join the secret club of men who are great in bed, then check out Power and Mastery at powerandmastery.com. It is the most complete sexual mastery training for men. Whether you want to have harder erections, last longer, or increase your sexual skills, there is something for you at powerandmastery.com. So make sure you check it out.
All right. So we really have to start at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the canned laughter there, Kevin. That's like the worst part of the sitcom, in my opinion. Not sure I want to bring this into our show.
Yeah, but see, the sitcom uses it to try to convince you that it's real laughter. We do it here on this show because it's stupid and funny.
Got it. So yeah, we might have to pass that to a vote.
All right. So anyway, we need to get started at the basics, right? Which is basically anatomy.
Yes.
So, because a lot of people think, oh, that's where the poop is stored.
Well, let's start from the outside. So you've got the butt cheeks, and then you have what you see, which is the anus. The anus has a pretty high concentration of nerve endings, so that can be very erogenous. And this is why it makes massage or intercourse pleasurable if it's done properly, okay? And the pudendal nerve that branches to supply the external anal sphincter also branches to the dorsal nerve of the clitoris and the dorsal nerve of the penis.
Okay, let's not glance by this too quickly, because one of the big questions that people have is, why would I want to do this? What possible reason could there be for wanting to do this? And so what we basically just described to you is that there is a high concentration of nerve endings.
Ooh, pleasure.
Exactly. Wherever there are a lot of nerve endings, there's a lot of feeling. Now, that could be pleasure, that could be pain. But the point is, there's a high concentration of nerve endings there,
And
which
sensations.
means there's a high potential for pleasurable sensations. Now, the other part is that last part that you talked about, that the nerves also connect to the clitoris and the penis. Aha. So then it is possible that you could feel sensations in your clitoris or your penis simply by stimulating around the anus.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. So right away, we've already given you a reason why you may want to do some of this.
Now, let's just get the whole like, that makes me gay out of the way. If you enjoy anal penetration, it makes you somebody who enjoys anal penetration. That's it. It doesn't say anything about your sexual orientation, your gender. It just means you like something.
Yeah. So, all right. So, second myth that we have to bust is that liking any sort of stimulation around in your anus makes you gay. No, it does not. Nothing makes you gay. You either choose to be gay or you were born that way, but it doesn't make you gay. You're not going to be a heterosexual guy who loves women and then she sticks a finger in your butt and you suddenly become gay and want a penis in there. Like, that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't.
All right, so let's go a little further. Ha ha, pun intended.
All right, I didn't do it.
Okay, so once we go past the anus, you've got two anal sphincters. And one is you have control over, and you can kind of like squeeze it. Like, so it's kind of for your external sphincter. And then there's the internal one, which you got to really control. And basically, they're there so that you can push fecal matter out of the way. And you know, it's true that when you think about anal, the one way in movement is out. So when you think about doing anything internal that goes in, it kind of goes against the natural way that things go.
Well, yeah. And, you know, one thing you do have to kind of realize is almost nothing in the body has a singular function.
True.
Right? So everything basically, you know, I mean, if you look at even the male penis, right, it has multiple functions, right? Because the same tube that your semen comes out of in order to impregnate a woman is also the same tube used to expel urine, right? So you got basically two functions. Same thing with a vagina. Like, lots of things have more than one function. So just because the primary function of the anus is to expel things out doesn't mean that it couldn't potentially do more than that.
Now, why are the sphincters important? Well, they kind of like muscles. I think, are they muscles? Well, yeah.
Yes, they are.
And think about your pelvic floor muscles. What do muscles do? They contract and they relax. What's an orgasm? A contraction and relaxation. What if you can use one at least of the sphincters and control the relaxation and the contraction? That could give you great pleasure.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this later on in the show, but there are toys that are designed specifically to do that, specifically designed to stimulate the anus at the point of orgasm to increase the orgasmic sensation.
All right, let's keep moving. You then get...
Moving through the canal.
Yes. It is called the anal canal.
How can we have a show where we make so many jokes and you won't let me play the laughter sound? I'm just kidding.
Because that's all we would hear.
That's true. We'd be overusing it today.
Basically, the anal canal is about 3 to 4 centimeters. By the way, I have no idea. I'm European, so translate that into inches for you. But 3 to 4 centimeters.
Short. It's short.
It's about this much.
Yeah.
And it connects the rectum to the anus. So usually the penetration that you do from a dildo or something shorter or butt plug kind of stays in the anal canal, which tends to be just a tube, empty, hopefully.
Yeah, well, empty in a sense that nothing is permanently stored
Yes.
there. Now, there could be little remnants here or there, potentially, but nothing is permanently stored there. You're not going to hit any walls.
Then you get to a rectum. And the rectum is an expandable organ for the temporary storage of fecus. All right, so that's when you start to hit some walls.
Possibly, yes, if you haven't done your prep, which we'll describe later.
And then, higher you get into the colon. So, once you're there, I mean,
That's pretty far.
It is pretty far.
You won't be going that far. But here's the point. Why are we really taking the time to go through all of this basic anatomy? Because if you understand the anatomy, then a lot of the fears of what's going to happen can go away, because then you realize, oh, okay, I'm only going that far. Oh, that's what's really in there. Oh, that's what that function is. Like, okay, I get it now. It's not
now
that big
get
a
relaxed.
deal. Right.
Let go and enjoy.
Well, we will talk about that when we get here to the 9 ground rules for butt play.
All right, well, tell us more about it.
Okay, well, so basically we have some basic rules for how to do this. So that's our 9 ground rules for butt play. Number 1, make sure that you want to try butt play. We were talking about the anatomy, and we were talking about the sphincters and how they're muscles, right? Well, if you are nervous, what do you tend to do? You tense up. The more tense you are in those sphincters, the more difficult and painful this process is going to be. So here's the thing is, what tends to happen with this is that one partner is the one that really wants to do this. And the other partner is like, I don't know about this.
This will spread my cheeks.
Right. And the problem is that that's not a good way to start. So you really both have to be on board. Like, hey, yeah, let's try this. This brings us to number 2, by the way. When you do both agree that this is something that you want to do, then you have to have some real conversations with each other about how this is going to go. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. This is what one partner might say. I'm going to use lube. I'm going to go slow. I'll only penetrate a little bit. I'll communicate with you. And then, tell me what you're feeling. Is it okay? Is it good? Should I keep going? Should I stop? Right? And the other person should say, well, okay, but if I feel discomfort, I need you to stop when I say stop. Like, you need to have all of these conversations and figure out how this is all going to go. Remember, we did an episode on, I think we called it The Key to Her Pleasure.
Okay.
Right. And part of that was trust, establishing trust, right? And
safety, ultimately.
Right. Trust and safety. So ultimately, safety is the key. Getting to safety is trust. So, like I said, part of that was trust. And here, having these conversations are what's really going to help establish the trust, so that person, and this really goes in both directions, that person feels comfortable that everything's going to be okay. So, when we talk about this, most people are probably thinking the guy is trying to convince the girl to allow him to penetrate her with his penis in the ass. Like, that's probably what most people listening to this are thinking about. But flip the table for a moment, because it could be the other way around. What if you have a guy who's like really unsure about this, and he's thinking, I don't know, maybe this means I'm gay, I shouldn't want this, but maybe it's a good idea, but I don't know, I've never had anything in my butt before. What if it hurts? What if? And she's over there going, oh, quit being such a crybaby. I've done this on every partner I've ever had. Just bend over, like that scenario could exist as well. And so, if you're the receiver, whether you're the man or the woman, if you're the guy, wouldn't you want to know from her, okay, yes, I've done this with every partner I've ever had, and I will go slow, I will be gentle, I will pay attention. If you say stop, I will stop, right? Like all of those things will make either party feel a whole lot safer. And honestly, this is true with everything in sex.
And, I also want to bring the whole thing that we'll come back to that later, but take baby steps when it comes to anal. You don't have to go from never had any anal penetration to having anal sex. You could go to having an external massage, or just a finger, or a butt plug, something in between. You don't have to go for like the biggest dildo in the store or crazy anal sex. There are plenty of ways to enjoy anal stimulation.
Yeah, that's often another common misconception, that anal must mean a penis or a giant dildo. Like,
no.
Where does that come from?
Hey, you could stick on the outside and do some good rimming.
Exactly.
Toss the salad. Welcome back to that.
Yeah. All right, so number 3, I'm leaving that one for you.
Poop happens. Just let it go. Most of the time it's clean, and we'll come back on how to prepare your butt after that. But sometimes there is a little remnant. It is what it is. Let it go.
And that leads us to number 4, which is use protection, gloves, or condoms for ease. I highly, highly recommend that you use a condom when having anal. It's just better hygiene for both of you.
You use gloves or finger cots.
Yeah, so, it sounds a little unsexy. I know, like some guys are like, I don't use condoms with my woman for whatever, but that's actually, if you're penetrating your woman, it's actually more for you and your protection than it is for hers. Other than, you being too rough and maybe causing some tearing, there's nothing going to happen inside her.
But you welcome UTIs.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's for your protection.
Number 5, put down a dark towel, waterproof blanket or something like that to keep your sheets clean and hide any poop that might show up.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen, right? I mean, there could be some remnants left here or there, and there could be a little smudge here or there, skid mark or two, but
I've heard only once of somebody who literally had like a real poop come out, and that's a big, because they weren't prepared. Otherwise, really all you get is a little speck.
All right, so we'll talk about this when we get to how to prepare, but most of those stories tends to emanate from the porn industry, and there's a very specific reason why, which we'll get to later on. So if you've heard those stories, a friend of a friend of a friend told you that this is what happened, it's probably bullshit, and we'll tell you where it comes from later on.
Number 6, start with fingers and toys. Start small, then go big.
Or not at all. Or not at all. You don't necessarily have to go big. But, the reality is that in this particular area, because there is such a high concentration of nerve endings and there is a lot of sensation, you don't need to go big.
No, you don't. And it takes a while to relax. And unless you're fully relaxed, you could literally create tear or fissure, which you don't want to have happen.
No.
So take your time. And then if you want to go bigger, you can go there.
Yeah.
But the problem is if you go too big, it hurts. And then you don't want anything else.
There really isn't a need unless that's your thing.
Yeah.
Like if that's what you like, you want to feel like you're being just completely torn apart, then great. Otherwise, there really isn't a need. Okay. Number 7, use lots of lube. Okay, this is a very important point. See, when you are having vaginal penetration, the vagina produces its own lubrication. The anus does
None.
not. It does not. So therefore, you are going to have to provide it. There could be a little natural lube in there, but
Not enough.
not enough. Not enough.
So don't bank on it. Just have a lot of lube.
Yeah.
Anal, the better. Like the more you use, the better it is.
Yeah, especially for the receiver.
Number 8, don't push your limits and go slow. Just honor yourself and watch your partner, like if your partner is like responding in a way that they're contracting or things like that, like honor. Like it's not about how far can I go?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I guess it's kind of another one of those misconceptions, but if people have never really done anal before, they're probably their only real exposure or experience to it is porn.
Yeah.
Right. And as we know, and as we've said many, 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 many times throughout the course of 216 episodes, porn is not real. Right. And the way that people have sex in porn is not the way that people actually have sex. And so people will then compare themselves to what they see in the porn. What do they see in the porn? They see a porn star bent over, spreading her ass cheeks with her sphincter wide open, just getting rammed by a guy with a giant cock, right?
Or being fisted.
Or possibly fisted or whatever. But the point is that that's not the reality for most people. And you have to understand that, one, they're pros, so to speak, like they do this regularly. 2, there's actually a fair amount of drug use designed to relax the muscles of the sphincter. That's a little trick in the porn industry that nobody tells you about. And 3, they're not actually necessarily even liking it. Some porn stars do like it, and they're an absolute yes to those types of scenes, and others do it just for the paycheck. They're acting, right? So don't compare yourself to what you see in porn. Like, wow, she's taking a 12-inch cock and getting pounded and loving every minute of it. Why can't I do that, right? People do stuff like that because it's not reality. That's not reality. And that is not what most people would experience when having anal play. And it's not what most people would experience as being pleasurable or fun. It just isn't. So don't compare yourself. So the idea, number 8, was don't push your limits, go slow. Don't compare yourself to what you've seen in porn or other places or what you've heard of from other people, and therefore you need to push yourself into that level. No, you don't.
And last but not least, clean up afterwards. Never go straight from the ass to the pussy. Never. And this is why using condoms or gloves comes in handy. Because all you have to do is pull it off and you can keep playing. You don't have to go wash your hands and use a brush and all of that.
Yeah, I'm sort of laughing to myself because I can't believe we actually have to really say that, but we have to actually say that. It's important to clean up properly afterwards. It just is. Just don't skip that step because I'm too horny, I'm too hot, I have to do this. Or no, you stop, you slow down, you take care of what's necessary.
Pee if you had anal sex, just to empty anything without any condoms.
Yeah, and
shower, rinse, soap.
Yeah, all of that. You may not have to do all of that. We're not saying you necessarily have to do all that, but just make sure that you're taking proper cleanliness precautions, which you should be doing when you're having sex anyway, all the time, whether there's anal play or not. Like, keep things clean and tidy so that people don't get infections or things like that, and you can continue to play happily on into the future. If you don't do that and she ends up with chronic UTIs or other issues, whether it's issues in the vagina, issues in the anus, or you have issues with the penis, like
monkeypox.
Well, yes, that is a possibility.
Anal.
They do say that is the main way that it is spread. So yes, make sure that you're doing your due diligence. It is for everybody's best interest, yours and your partner's. Okay, so those are the 9 ground rules for butt play. I'm sure that you could come up with a few more. Those are just the basics, right? We're giving you the basic guideline of these are kind of the things you really sort of have to do when doing this.
So let's talk about how to prepare your butt now, because it's kind of all we have left.
You know what? Let's do our ad first, and then we'll come to how to prepare.
Sure, go for it, love.
Butt. Okay, so today's sponsor is us.
Shocking.
Shocking, yeah. Like that doesn't happen every other show. So if you are thinking that you might want to try some anal and you're like, man, we don't have the right supplies. We don't have a sex blanket to make sure that we don't get stains on our bed. We don't have the right lube. We don't have the right dildos. We need more condoms.
Prostate massager for sure.
Prostate massager, whatever. On our website, we have a highly curated store for you to buy great affiliate products, hand-picked affiliates. We have hand-selected some great products to help support your health, sex life, and relationship. Remember that purchasing products from us and our affiliates helps support the work that we do and ensures that we can continue to help as many people as possible. So go to CelineRemy.com/products, and there are links there to anything and everything you could possibly need to make your sex life experience better. And again, just remember, buying products from our affiliates helps support us, helps keep this show going. It does cost money. Equipment breaks down. We need to add new things. We want to make a better experience. It takes time. There's a lot involved in putting on a quote unquote free podcast. So please go to CelineRemy.com/products and buy some cool stuff to have fun with.
All right, well, let's get to how to prepare your butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
All right. Number 1, make sure you had a bowel movement and feel empty. It's not the right day if you're constipated. It's not the right day if it hasn't happened. Choose and pick a day where that has happened.
Yeah. So now this is where we need to talk. Well, this and number 2, really. Actually, let's do number 2 and then we'll talk about the porn industry. And
Number 2, should you use a syringe then? Or like one of those little like enema bulb? Because if you haven't had a movement and you want to be cleaned, well, most of the time, they tend to make things more messy and liquidy. So it's better to stick with good fibers in your diet, increasing magnesium like at night, so that in the morning you have a good movement.
okay, so here's where the stories you've heard about people having explosive movements because of anal sex, they usually come from the porn industry. And the reason is okay, if you're at home and you're thinking you might want to do some butt play, you know, your partner might be like, you know what? I didn't actually have a movement today, or I didn't have as many as I usually do, because really you should be having more than one a day if you're really healthy, but that's a whole nother thing. So, you know, you might decide, you know, today's just not the day. But in the porn industry, it's like Thursday at, 2:00 in the afternoon, there's an anal scene.
You know, it's kind of the same as like when you have an early appointment in the morning and you're like, please let me poop before I go. I don't want to poop at the office.
That's right.
And you're like, and your body knows, and your body just doesn't relax. And then you end up having to shit at the office. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, if you're working in an office long enough, that's unavoidable. But anyway, the point is that because they do not have the option of saying, you know what, today is just not the day for me, like it has to happen, they will do all sorts of things to make bowel movements happen. And therein lies the problem with the explosions you may have heard about. There are lots of porn stars who've talked about this. We watched a series a couple years ago.
Is it like Ask a Porn Star?
Yeah, I think it was called Ask a Porn Star, and it was absolutely hysterical. I think it was on Amazon or something like that. I don't really remember. But they would just ask, a bunch of different porn stars the same question, and then they would talk about their experience. And of course, they're always asking them about their experience with anal sex scenes. And, quite a few of them had funny stories to share about this exact thing happening. But what you learn from that when you listen to them is that the reason it's happening is because they were doing things like this. They were giving themselves enemas beforehand. They were doing everything they could to try to clear everything out for the scene. And most of the time that works fine. And then sometimes it doesn't. And then, maybe if you've ever done an enema, you know that you don't necessarily get it all out the first try, right?
No, especially if you've never done it before.
Yeah. So here you are in the middle of an anal scene and explosion happens, right? However, this doesn't usually happen to regular people who decide to have anal play, and I don't know, maybe if you're doing it all the time, you're increasing your chances. But like the average couple who's like, hey, let's do a little butt play today. They do that 2-3 times a year, maybe, and it's like the chances of that happening are really low.
Well, let's talk about a few things you should do. Use a washcloth to really clean your ass. And then when you shower, just insert a soapy finger, go just a few inches deep, clean things up, and you're ready.
Yeah, it's not that complicated, really.
No.
But this is another thing you'll often hear, especially from women, like, oh, it's too much prep work. I don't want to do all that tonight. Like, it's really actually not a lot of prep work.
Hey, groom your hair too a little bit, because it helps to have little hair.
Yes, it's definitely better to have less hair there.
Yeah. So that's it. It's not rocket science. You can prepare your butt. You can over prepare. So just
I want to say also, because I know that there are some people that are going to listen to this that are probably like anal experts. Oh, but you guys didn't mention this, and you should also do this, and this is the best product for that. Okay. Here's the thing. First of all, I'm not a huge anal fan. I'm just not. And a lot of guys are, because it's a fantasy. It is the forbidden fruit. It is the taboo thing that you're not supposed to do. I think even in some places in the country, it's technically even still illegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So, basically, that's the main reason why a lot of guys want to do it, because it's that sort of taboo forbidden thing. I'm fortunate that when I was really young, I had some girlfriends who were totally open to it, and I got to try it, and I was like, okay, whatever. Honestly, I personally think a fine-tuned vagina is way better than the ass. Why? Why is that? Okay, so you have the sphincters. The sphincters can tighten and relax, and some guys think that's good. But the sphincter is only in a certain part. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's only going to contract on part of your penis. A vagina, on the other hand, a woman who has toned vaginal muscles, she can squeeze every part of your penis. She can do rolling squeezes. She can do stuff that makes you think that somehow there's a hand in there with fingers doing all kinds of stuff. To me, it's a much better sensation. And if I have a choice, I'd rather go where it's better. So, I got to try it a couple of times. I'm like, okay, that was fine, great, and whatever. So
I'm not a big anal sex person either. I don't really like it to receive. I enjoy massages. Something about the rimming, which by the way is licking of the anus, actually feels really good. And every now and then a small butt plug can feel good.
Yeah, so things like that.
That's the extent of what I like.
Well, the reason I bring that up is not necessarily because you all care about our personal preferences. Maybe you do, I don't know. But I just bring that up because I know there's going to be some people who are going to be like, oh, this, that, and the other thing. So I'm telling you right now, I am not the consummate butt play expert. We're just giving you basic advice here because we have learned through coaching people over many years that as basic as we might be when it comes to this subject, a lot of people know even less than we do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like, this is why we titled this the beginner's guide, right?
Yes.
This is the beginner's guide. This is for people who are just thinking about it and need some guidance. Now, having said that, if you are listening to this on our website or through your podcast application, or you're listening to it on YouTube, if you've got valuable advice, share it in the comments. Tell people what your experience has been like. What tips have you learned about this over the years that you think might help other people?
Well, let's talk about pain and discomfort. How do you deal with that?
Don't do it. No, just kidding. Okay, no, so this is another common question is, what happens if it hurts? Okay, well, some discomfort is normal, especially if you're a little tense.
Mm-hmm. Tight to the butt.
So what can you do about that? Okay, number one
Remove
is...
the stick. Sorry.
Number one is relax. You just need to relax.
Yes.
The more you relax, the less pain you will experience. The more you clench up and get tight, the more pain you will experience.
Add lube.
More lube. Lube.
Try changing the position, because maybe the position you're in, you're tightening muscles. Try staying on the outside, or like really just giving yourself more of a butt foreplay.
Yeah, there doesn't actually have to be penetration. If you're
No.
worried about pain, there doesn't have to be penetration. The other thing is there can be penetration, but do it with something smaller than a penis.
Finger.
Finger is fine. That'll do it for most people.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you really need.
It should be pleasurable.
Yeah, and the thing about butt plugs too is they're generally short, right? So they're not very long. They're not
Yes.
penetrating very deeply. So they're basically just long enough to get past the first sphincter and not fall out.
Mm-hmm. So, if there's pain, slow down, breathe, relax, see if you can open up the area, slowly keep at it. If it keeps hurting, go for something else, switch position, try something different until you find pleasure.
And always remember, more lube, more lube. Gungadine, bring lube. Bring water-based lube. That's an old reference many of you might not get, but it was a joke I made the other day because Céline was asking me to do a lot of things, and I felt like I was Gungadine in that moment, so I made that joke. Céline was like, Gungadine, what is that? It's an old movie reference.
Yeah, which you made me watch later, and it was funny. Okay, let's talk about some positions when you're working with anal. I find that, what works best is where both the giver and the receiver can be relaxed. So honestly, being on your back, with your butt on your back, like in supine, is super easy. You can bring your knees up to the chest. You could use a pillow under your butt. And you can even do it on your own from that position, kneeling on the side or just laying down like that. So I think like supine is a super easy one to start with. Face down is another option. Now, face down is more vulnerable because you don't really see what's going on. So you gotta have the trust and the safety going on.
Yeah.
But when you're face down too, you can also just fucking let go. It doesn't matter anymore. And you can rest your arms on the chair, on the bed, on your back. It just is an easy one.
Yeah, well, it also does a very good job of spreading the ass cheeks and creating easy access.
You can put a pillow too underneath your belly.
Yeah.
Then another option is doggy style, where you get on all four and that spread things more. So maybe you can do a variation of the different ones, you know. When you're being penetrated, a certain one, or a massage, you want to be more relaxed, do the other one. These are different ideas.
Yeah, so there are a few positions. I mean, you know, not rocket science.
No.
Pretty much most of the positions are going to be some version of bending over.
Stick that ass.
The face down one reminds me of that old song from like the 90s. Face down, ass up. That's the way we like to fuck.
All right.
It just makes me laugh.
So maybe let's talk briefly. I mean, hopefully this show has helped you to demystify butt play. You have less fear, less questions. You might even have some curiosity. So now where do you go from there?
To the butt.
All right.
No, all joking aside. So yeah, that's a great question, right? So maybe you had some curiosity. Now you've got some basic information. Where do you go from there? And, you know, I say the where you go from there is to have a conversation with your partner and see if this is something you're willing to try.
Start with massaging. Start with a butt massage.
And butt massages are the best.
They really are.
Oh, it's like when you go get a massage, you know, there's a few areas in the body they will absolutely never really touch.
Mm-hmm.
And the butt is one of them. Like, and some people say, oh, no, my massage therapist gets my butt. Yeah, she gets like the outer side of your glute, you know, like, but like getting closer to the middle to inside and digging like a thumb into those sore muscles. Like if you're working out in the gym or you're cycling a lot or running or like, oh man, that is like the greatest ever. I love butt massages.
You can play the doorbell on the anus, tickle it, play with different sensations and different tools and toys. No need to go inside. You could go for that rimming and licking if that's your thing. And then talk about what you're willing to try inside. Butt plugs come in all sizes and shapes. Some are more comfortable than others. I don't like them all, you know. I've noticed
True of
that
any sex toy.
the longer the stem, the easier it is for it to stay in. I have this really cute butt plug that I love, but it's got a small stem. And if I get too turned on, because what's cool is if you add a butt plug during vaginal penetration, it creates pressure on the perineal sponge. While you have penetration inside, you feel so full, so filled. But sometimes there's a contraction that happens. And I did pop that thing out.
Yeah, that's popped out before.
Yeah.
It's because that one doesn't go in deep enough.
Well,
But-
it's that stem that doesn't.
right, because
yeah.
the stem is too short, but it's the right size for you.
I know.
and
Then we
it's-
got another one with a longer stem, but I don't like the shape as much.
Yeah, it's a little bigger. It's hard. It's actually hard to find small sized
Mm-hmm.
ones.
It is.
But you can do it. So
Let's talk about anal beads, maybe what they are and maybe how to use them.
yeah, so anal beads are something that obviously you put in your ass. They're primarily designed to be slowly removed while you're having an orgasm. And what that does is create contractions of the sphincter muscles, which increases the sensation of the contractions that occur during an orgasm. And it can be highly pleasurable for some people.
And you know, you have to see what's your thing. Do you like the popping, like pulling things out? Or do you like when things are in, stay in place and create fullness?
Only one way to find out.
Just trying.
Exactly. So yeah, you know, the sort of the last thing that we have here, you've got butt massages, anus massages, anal licking, anal beads, butt plugs, fingers, dildos, prostate massagers. The point is there are lots of options for you to incorporate some sort of butt play. Don't always think it has to be penis in vagina or giant dildo in penis in ass or giant dildo in ass. It doesn't have to be just that. There's lots of possible options. And, another thing too is that a lot of these things are really designed to enhance the sensation of regular penetrative sex, right? So it's, the idea isn't like, oh, we're going to do butt stuff and I'm going to try to orgasm through that. You could, but the idea is it's just supposed to enhance the sensations that you feel when you're having regular penetrative sex. Any last words? Any last butt wisdom?
Listen to your butt. Really. No, but I think we did a good job. Again, if you want more on the prostate and specifically how to use prostate massager as a couple, go to episode 137 or 7. Because we really spent the whole episode on that.
Yeah. If you're specifically interested in butt play as it pertains to prostate stuff, go listen to episode 7 and episode 137. Otherwise, if you're just looking to enhance your sex or maybe experiment a little bit with the sensations that are possible through some play with the anus, then rewind and listen to this one again.
I hope we broke the taboos, that we brought some good light into this dark corner.
Into this dark hole. Oh, the butt jokes never get old.
Nope, they sure don't.
And believe me, I have held back probably 50% of the butt jokes I wanted to make during this episode.
Wow, good job.
I squeezed that sphincter tight and held him back.
Wow, I'm impressed.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for this episode, and we will see you next week. We hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoy this show, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends.
And for more free, exclusive content, join us in the Passion Vault at CelineRemy.com/vault. That's CELINEREMY.com/vault.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, you're amazing.